San Francisco, December 13th, 2014. It's a Saturday afternoon in the heart of the city. Union Square is usually a kaleidoscope of tourists, shoppers, and tech workers. But today, the color palette has collapsed. Today, the city is drowning in red. This is Santacon. Depending on who you ask, it is either a whimsical celebration of holiday cheer or a drunken descent into public madness. Thousands of revelers, fueled by cheap alcohol and the anonymity of a costume, have descended upon the city. It is loud, it is chaotic, and for the San Francisco Police Department, it is a nightmare of crowd control. But amidst the noise and the vomit and the singing, something else is happening, something precise. While thousands of people are using the Santa suit to draw attention to themselves, one man is using it to disappear. At approximately 1 p.m., a single figure breaks away from the herd. He walks into the Wells Fargo Bank on Sutter Street. He looks exactly like everyone else outside. He has the hat. He has the jacket. He has the white beard. But unlike the thousands of frat boys and tourists outside, his beard is slightly wrong. It's crooked. Catawampus, witnesses would later say. He doesn't shout. He doesn't wave a gun. He simply slides a note to the teller. The note says two things. I have a gun, and I want the money. 2 minutes later, he walks out with a bag of cash. He steps onto the sidewalk, turns the corner, and vanishes. He didn't need a getaway car. He didn't need a tunnel. He didn't need a mask, not in the traditional sense. He just needed to walk into the crowd. In the history of criminology, there are few examples of a disguise working this perfectly. The police were looking for a white male in a red suit. They were looking for a drop of water in an ocean of wine. This is the story of the 2014 Santacon bank robbery. A crime so simple, it's almost stupid. A crime so effective, it remains unsolved more than a decade later. But to understand how he got away with it, we have to understand the environment that created him. We have to look at the history of Santacon, the psychology of crowds, and a blood-soaked warning from 1927 that proves Santa Claus isn't always a saint. To understand the robbery, you have to understand the camouflage. Santacon didn't start as a pub crawl. It started as a riot, or, more accurately, a piece of anarchist theater. In 1974, a Danish theater collective called Solvognen, the Chariot of the Sun, staged a performance called the Santa Army. Their idea was radical but simple. If Santa is the symbol of generosity, why does he work for capitalism? Dozens of actors dressed as Santa invaded a Copenhagen department store and started taking items off the shelves, handing them to customers and saying, "It's free! Santa pays for everything!" The police beat them. They arrested them. The image of Santa Claus being handcuffed was exactly the subversive point they wanted to make. It was political. It was dangerous. Fast forward to 1994. The concept migrates to San Francisco, adopted by the Cacophony Society, a group of urban pranksters who also helped birth Burning Man. They called it Santarchy. It was still about disruption, about surrealism. It was Dadaist performance art designed to crack the monotony of daily life. But then, something happened. The same thing that happens to every counterculture movement. It went mainstream. By 2014, the politics were gone. The art was gone. Santacon had become a commodified transgression. It was an excuse to get drunk at 10 a.m. But this devolution created a unique criminological phenomenon. It created a permissive environment. Psychologists call it de-individuation. When you wear a mask or uniform or a Santa suit, and you are surrounded by thousands of others doing the same, your self-awareness drops. You stop being John Smith, accountant. You become part of the Santa mass. Norms dissolve. Behavior that would get you arrested on a Tuesday, shouting at cops, climbing lampposts, walking into a bank with a bag, becomes invisible on Santacon Saturday. This is the urban aversion reflex. When we see crazy behavior in a city, we look away. We don't want to get involved. We put our heads down. The robber knew this. He knew that on December 13th, 2014, he could be the most suspicious-looking man in the world, and people wouldn't call the police. They would just roll their eyes and say, "Ugh, another drunk Santa." Let's reconstruct the crime. It's just before 1 p.m. The suspect is likely walking down Stockton Street. He's surrounded by revelers. Witnesses would later describe him as a white male between 40 and 50 years old. This is a key detail. He wasn't a 22-year-old college student. He was older. And there's the beard. The catawampus beard. Reports specifically mention that his fake beard was crooked or ill-fitting. Now ask yourself, if you are planning a federal crime that carries a 20-year sentence, do you buy the cheapest beard at the dollar store? Or was that the point? If he had worn a high-end Hollywood-quality prosthetic, he would have stood out. The shitty beard was actually the perfect camouflage because everyone else's beard was shitty too. He was mimicking the low-effort vibe of the crowd. He chooses the Wells Fargo at the 400 block of Sutter Street. This is smart geography. It's close enough to Union Square to allow for an instant merge into the crowd, but it's on a side street where the bank lobby isn't completely gridlocked with drunks. He needs a clean environment to work, but a chaotic environment to escape. He enters. He doesn't run. He walks to the teller. He's holding a demand note. This is what's known in the trade as a note job. It's the preferred method for the professional who wants to avoid a scene. No shouting, no waving guns, just a quiet transaction of terror. The note claims he has a gun. The teller, trained to prioritize life over property, complies. She hands over the cash. We don't know the exact amount. Banks never release that. But it was enough to make the risk worth it. There is a surreal detail in the surveillance footage. Through the window behind the robber, you can actually see another Santa walking down the street, completely oblivious. Two Santas, one committing a felony, one probably looking for a taco. The duality of man wrapped in polyester. He walks out. He turns the corner,
and he is gone. The police response was immediate, but it was paralyzed. Imagine the radio call. Suspect is a white male wearing a red suit and hat. Officer Gatpandan of the SFPD later summed it up perfectly. Any other day, Santa would have stood out. But that day, Santa was everywhere. The witness pool was contaminated. Most people on the street had been drinking since breakfast. Alcohol impairs the encoding of memory. If you asked a bystander which way the Santa went, they might point in 3 different directions because they saw 3 different Santas. The robber had built an alcohol wall between himself and the law.
To really appreciate the elegance of the 2014 robbery, we have to look at the other side of the coin. The violent, disastrous side. Because 2014 wasn't the first time Santa robbed a bank. The most famous case happened 87 years earlier in CISCO, Texas, and it was a bloodbath. Meet Marshall Ratliff, an ex-con with a bad idea. In 1927, Texas was suffering from a rash of bank robberies. The Texas Bankers Association had actually put a bounty on robbers. $5,000 for a dead bank robber. Not alive, dead. The stakes were incredibly high. Ratliff wanted to rob the First National Bank in his hometown of CISCO, but he knew he'd be recognized. So he borrowed a Santa suit from his landlady. Ratliff put on the suit. But unlike our San Francisco ghost, Ratliff didn't use the suit to blend in. He used it to deceive. He walked down the street, shaking hands with children. He let them follow him. He used their innocence as a shield to get close to the bank door. Once inside, the illusion shattered. He and his gang drew guns, but they made a mistake. They forgot they were in Texas in the 1920s. When the alarm went off, the town didn't hide. They grabbed their rifles. It turned into a war zone. The police chief and the citizens opened fire on the bank. The robbers, trapped, grabbed 2 little girls as human shields to escape to their car. In the ensuing gunfight, 6 people died. 6. Including the police chief and his deputy. Ratliff was eventually caught. The town was so enraged that a mob dragged him out of his jail cell and lynched him. The Santa Claus bank robbery of 1927 is a story of maximum violence and total failure. Compare that to 2014. Marshall Ratliff used the suit to get attention. The San Francisco robber used the suit to avoid attention. Ratliff used violence. The SF robber used psychology. One ended on a rope. The other is likely sitting on a beach somewhere, spending his Wells Fargo cash. It shows the evolution of the criminal mind. The smartest criminal isn't the one with the biggest gun. It's the one who reads the calendar. So, who was he? The FBI and SFPD had very little to go on. No face covered by beard. No fingerprints, likely gloved. No reliable witnesses. Drunk. But there were other robbers operating in the Bay Area at the time. Could there be a connection? 3 days after the Santacon robbery, on December 16, 2014, police arrested a man named Daniel King. They called him the Chuck Taylor Bandit because of his shoes. He had robbed a bank on Irving Street and was linked to 7 other heists. The timing is suspicious, right? Just 72 hours later? But police never formally linked King to the Santacon job. King was a serial robber with a pattern. The Santacon robber appears to be a one-off. But then there was the bad breath bandit, a large man, 6 foot tall, 250 pounds, who robbed banks in Northern California around the same time. His signature? He wore a painter's dust mask and apparently had terrible hygiene. But again, the MO doesn't quite fit. The Santa robber was described as medium build, not heavy. The internet, of course, has its theories. On Reddit threads discussing the case, users have speculated about the perfect getaway. The prevailing theory is the Superman change. They walks into a bathroom, maybe at the Grand Hyatt on Stockton. He strips off the red suit. Underneath, he's wearing regular clothes. He dumps the suit in the trash. He walks out of the hotel as just another guy complaining about the noise outside. He walks right past the cops who are tackling Santas on the street. He gets on BART, and he's gone. The robbery happened at a specific tipping point in San Francisco history. Just 1 month earlier, in November 2014, California passed Proposition 47. This law reclassified many nonviolent property crimes as misdemeanors. While bank robbery remained a felony, the atmosphere of the city was changing. Petty theft was becoming decriminalized. Police resources were stretched thin. The Santacon robbery was, in a way, a harbinger of the lawless reputation that would plague the city in the coming decade. Fast forward to today, 2025. The world has changed again. We went through a pandemic where everyone wore masks, and then a backlash where masks became suspicious. In September 2025, California Governor Newsom signed Senate Bill 627, banning extreme masking for law enforcement and setting strict standards for concealing identity. While this law was aimed at police transparency, it reflects a broader societal shift, the end of anonymity. In 2014, a man could walk into a bank in a mask because it was a holiday. Today, with AI surveillance and gait analysis, that window is closing. If you walked into a bank today in a full mask, the security doors would likely lock before you reached the counter. We even see this in recent arrests. In September 2025, a 62-year-old chef named Valentino Luchin was arrested for robbing 3 banks in San Francisco in 1 day. How was he caught? Community leads. He didn't have the shield of the Santa mask. He was just a guy robbing a bank. The Santacon robber remains the outlier, the one who got away. We often think of the perfect crime as something high-tech, Mission Impossible stuff, lasers, hackers, vaults. But the 2014 Santacon robbery proves that the perfect crime is actually sociological. It relies on routine activity theory, a motivated offender, a suitable target, and the lack of a capable guardian. The guardian, in this case, the police, wasn't absent. They were just overwhelmed by the noise. The robber didn't hack the bank's computer. He hacked the city's calendar. He realized that for one afternoon, the rules of society would be suspended. He stepped into that suspension, took what he wanted, and stepped back out. Did he do it for the money? Or did he do it because he knew nobody would believe it until it was too late? If you see a Santa with a crooked beard this December, check his bag. He might have more than just toys in there. Nobody would believe it until it was too late. If you see a Santa with a crooked beard this December, check his bag. He might have more than just toys in there. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more criminology deep dives.